The first time Alessia Serrano put a ring on my finger, a pistol was pressed beneath my ribs, and 6 people were deciding whether killing me was worth starting a war. "Smile," she murmured. The black sapphire slid over my knuckle, as though it had been measured for me years ago. Her thumb settled over the wild beat of my pulse, warm and impossibly steady. Across the private dining room, Celeste Serrano's men stopped moving. Not because they had grown merciful, because every woman raised inside the Serrano empire knew the meaning of that ring. Alessia lifted my hand to her mouth and pressed her lips to the stone. Her dark eyes never left the woman holding the gun against me. "Eden Marlowe is under my name," she said. "She is my intended wife. Touch her again, and the ceasefire ends before your finger reaches the trigger." The weapon eased away from my body. I should have stepped back. I should have torn off the ring and run from the woman the city called the Queen of the South Harbor. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "What happens when they discover we have never even had dinner?" Alessia's gaze finally met mine. There was no amusement in it, only a frightening kind of promise. "Then I will take you to dinner." The ring saved my life before midnight. At sunrise, Alessia offered to remove it herself. 3 weeks later, when every enemy who wanted it had fallen, she held that same ring between us and asked me to keep it. By then, returning it was the one thing I could no longer survive. None of that was what I expected when the ring first arrived at my workshop 12 hours earlier, wrapped in plain gray cloth, and carried by a woman who looked as if she had never once waited for permission to enter a room. I was 29, behind on rent, and repairing a Victorian mourning brooch, when Sabine Ortega entered my workshop in a charcoal suit and placed the wrapped ring on my desk. The black sapphire sat inside a crown of tiny diamonds, and one shoulder of the platinum band had been split by a narrow steel edge. Inside, an inscription read, "Only what is freely given may be kept." Sabine wanted the ring restored and delivered to the Belladonna Hotel before 10. The payment could save my struggling shop, but the urgency felt wrong. Under magnification, I found burgundy sealing wax trapped inside the break, marked by part of a winged thorn crest. I preserved a fragment on archival tape, repaired the band strongly enough to be worn, and placed it in a plain velvet box. I polished only the repair, leaving the ring's age visible, and placed it inside a plain velvet box. The Belladonna stood on the harbor like a palace that had learned to keep secrets. Its lower floors glittered with a charity gala, but Sabine's instructions sent me past the ballroom, into a private elevator, and up to a dining room where no music could reach. 2 women searched my bag. A third led me inside. At the head of a long table sat Alessia Serrano. I recognized her immediately, although I had never seen a photograph that captured the stillness around her. She was 35, tall, dressed in black, with dark hair swept behind one shoulder, and a face beautiful enough to make attention feel involuntary. Newspapers called her a shipping heiress when they wished to avoid lawsuits. Everyone else called her the Mafia queen. I knew the stories. The warehouses no inspector entered without an invitation. The judges who suddenly remembered missing evidence. The men who had underestimated her and then retired to countries without extradition treaties. But the woman at the table was not looking at her armed guards. She was looking at my hands. "You repaired it," she said. Her voice was low, precise. "That is generally what people pay me to do." Sabine closed her eyes briefly, as though I had stepped onto ice she had already warned me was thin. Alessia's mouth changed at one corner. "Bring it here." I approached, aware of every person watching. She opened the box but did not touch the ring. "Did you find anything unusual?" I thought of the wax fragment. Before I could answer, the doors opened behind me. An elegant silver-haired woman entered with 4 guards and the calm entitlement of someone arriving late to her own house. Alessia rose. "Aunt Celeste." The council was scheduled for 11. Plans changed. Celeste's gaze dropped to the box. "How fortunate. The succession ring has returned." Something in Sabine's posture tightened. Alessia noticed it too. She stepped between Celeste and me. Eden, give the ring to Sabine and leave. I reached for the box. A gun touched my back. The room became perfectly silent. Celeste sighed as if embarrassed by everyone's lack of manners. The artisan has seen too much. She has seen a damaged piece of jewelry. She has seen who possesses it. She has heard your use of the word succession. You know the rule. There are several rules I intend to rewrite. Not tonight. Celeste moved closer, studying me with pale, disinterested eyes. I am sorry, Miss Marlowe. You accepted private work without asking who owned it. Curiosity is not always a virtue. Neither is threatening the person who can tell you why your ring was covered in your private sealing wax, I said. It was reckless. It was also the first thing that made Celeste's expression crack. Alessia looked at me once, understood something I did not, and took the ring from its box. Then she stepped close enough that I caught the clean scent of cedar and rain on her coat. Give me your left hand. Why? Because Celeste is correct about one rule. No council family may spill the blood of a woman wearing the Serrano engagement ring without declaring war on me. My heart slammed against my ribs. You cannot solve every problem by getting engaged to it. I have never tried before. The gun pressed harder. Alessia held out her hand, but she did not seize mine. Even then, surrounded by weapons and running out of time, she waited. That was the first thing about her that did not fit the stories. I placed my hand in hers. She slid on the ring. Celeste's guards hesitated, and the balance of the room shifted. Alessia announced me as her intended wife. Celeste called it theater. Alessia replied, "All power is theater, until someone bleeds for doubting it." Sabine moved first. She twisted the gun from the woman behind me, while 2 Serrano guards blocked the doors. No shots were fired. No one needed to discover whether Alessia had been bluffing. Celeste looked from the ring to her niece and smiled without warmth. You have made a stranger your weakness. Alessia drew me to her side, one hand firm at my waist. No. You did that when you threatened an innocent woman in my house. Celeste left with her people, but the promise in her expression followed us into the elevator. My knees began shaking somewhere between the 42nd and 31st floors. Alessia removed her hand from my waist immediately. May I touch you? The question startled me more than the gun had. You already put a family relic on my finger. To stop a murder. I am asking about now. I nodded. She turned my hand palm up and examined the red mark where the weapon had pinned my wrist to the table. Her fingers were careful. Sabine will take you somewhere secure. No. The elevator seemed to shrink. I did not agree to disappear into one of your houses. Your workshop is no longer safe. Then call the police. Sabine made a quiet sound that might have been a laugh if the situation had belonged to anyone else. Alessia did not. Celeste owns the loyalty of 2 precinct commanders. I can contact an honest investigator, but until I know who brought that ring to her and why, public protection may expose you faster. You brought me the ring. I ordered it retrieved from my mother's vault. Sabine never reached the vault. A courier delivered it to her already damaged with instructions that appeared to come from me. I looked at Sabine. She gave one grim nod. Someone had used me as bait. The elevator doors opened onto a private garage. Black cars waited with engines running. Alessia stood aside instead of steering me toward one. You have 3 choices. Sabine can take you to a secure hotel under a different name. I can take you to my residence, where I can personally guarantee your safety, or I can arrange police protection through the one officer I trust and accept the risk that Celeste finds you before morning. Choose. The ring does not make the choice for you. It would have been easier if she had ordered me. Then I could have hated her cleanly. I looked at the garage exit and imagined returning to my apartment alone, jumping at every sound. Your residence, I said. Until morning. Alessia opened the car door herself. Until morning. Her residence was not the marble fortress I expected. It occupied the upper floors of a restored shipping office overlooking the dark harbor. The rooms were spacious but restrained. Warm wood, pale stone, books arranged by use rather than color. There were guards at the elevators and sensors on the windows, yet the kitchen smelled like fresh bread. Alessia took off her coat, rolled her sleeves, and made tea. I watched the most feared woman in the city burn her thumb on the kettle. "You have staff," I said. "They are asleep. Mafia queens observe labor laws? The good ones do. Is there a review board? Only a very judgmental accountant." A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Alessia looked up, and for one suspended second, the danger fell away. She had a small scar below her lower lip. A faint shadow of exhaustion lived beneath her eyes. She looked less like a myth and more like a woman who had not expected to enjoy making me laugh. Then Sabine entered with news that my workshop had been searched. Nothing had been stolen, but every drawer had been opened and my security camera disabled. My laughter vanished. Alessia gripped the edge of the counter. "Were the photographs damaged?" Sabine asked me. "What photographs?" There were 3 framed pictures behind the register. The fact that she had noticed them made me blink. "My mother. She died 4 years ago." Sabine's face softened. "They are intact." Alessia exhaled, but guilt remained in her expression. "This happened because of me. It happened because Celeste chose it." Both things can be true. She offered me the guest suite and placed a new phone on the bedside table. The door had a lock on the inside. There were no guards inside the room. When I asked what would happen if I removed the ring, Alessia did not pretend it was harmless. Celeste would argue the engagement was withdrawn. "You would lose the protection of the council accord. So I am free to take it off, as long as I accept that someone might kill me." Pain moved through her eyes. "That is not freedom. It is the only choice I can give you tonight, and I am sorry." I looked down at the sapphire. The inscription pressed invisibly against my skin. "Only what is freely given may be kept. I will wear it until I am safe." "Thank you." "Do not thank me. I am not doing it for you. I know." She reached the doorway, then stopped. "Eden, nothing else about the claim is real, unless you decide it is. No one in this house will enter without permission. No one will touch you because of that ring. If anyone forgets, including me, tell Sabine." "Would she protect me from you?" Alessia glanced toward the hall. "Sabine? Gladly," came the answer from somewhere outside. For the first time that night, I slept. I woke at dawn to the sound of a piano. The melody came from the room below, halting and imperfect. I followed it barefoot and found Alessia at an old upright instrument, playing the same 8 bars and failing at the 9th. She stopped when she saw me. "I did not know you were awake. I did not know terrifying crime queens practiced scales." My mother insisted. I resisted with unusual dedication. Morning light softened the severe lines of her black shirt. The image felt too private, as though I had caught her speaking a language she denied knowing. I sat at the opposite end of the bench. "Move your left hand earlier." "You play?" "Badly, but with confidence." I showed her the transition. Our shoulders touched. Alessia went still, but did not move closer. We played the phrase together, her fingers following mine, until the music resolved. When it ended, neither of us lifted our hands. She looked at the ring, and then at me. "It fits." Most rings fit someone. That one never did. Before I could ask what she meant, the private elevator chimed. Sabine entered with a furious woman in a green coat. Nora Hart had been my closest friend since university, and my almost girlfriend for one complicated summer. She was 30, a legal aid attorney, and capable of turning concern into an accusation before breakfast. She crossed the room, took my face between her hands, and inspected me for damage. "Tell me you have not joined the Mafia because business was slow." "I have not joined the Mafia." "Why are you wearing her ring?" "Technically, the Mafia joined me." Nora closed her eyes. Alessia rose from the piano. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Ms. Hart. Ms. Serrano, I am taking Eden home. That decision belongs to Eden." Nora looked surprised, then suspicious. "Does it?" "Yes." Alessia stepped back, giving us space. I will be in the study. She left without asking me to follow. Nora waited until the door closed. Are you frightened of her? I was. I still might be. But she saved my life. Powerful women are often most dangerous when they make rescue feel like romance. The words landed because Nora knew my history. My former fiancé had chosen my clothes, my friends, even which commissions were worth my time, all while calling it love. It had taken me 2 years to understand that a cage could be lined with concern. Alessia gave me options, I said. Bad options, but real ones. And the ring? Protection until we identify who set this up. Nora examined it without touching. That is not just any Serrano ring. I noticed. If you stay, stay because you decide to, not because you feel grateful. I know. Do you? I looked through the glass wall of the study. Alessia stood with her back to us, speaking quietly to Sabine. She could have watched, she did not. I want to know why the ring was sent to me, I said, and I want to make sure no one uses my shop to reach her again. I am staying today. Nora studied me, then nodded. She did not like my choice, but she respected it. That difference mattered. When Alessia returned, Nora offered to represent me. Alessia agreed before she finished the sentence. They spent the next hour negotiating rules for my temporary safety. I would retain my own phone. I could leave with Sabine whenever I wished. I would receive full information about threats involving me. No public appearance would happen without my approval. The ring did not authorize physical contact. At that final condition, Alessia's expression did not change, but her eyes met mine. Agreed, she said. Nora noticed. So did I. By noon, we had a plan. The council would meet again in 3 nights. Until then, Celeste would test whether the engagement was real. If she proved it false, the protection could collapse. Alessia needed to appear with me at 1 family dinner and 1 foundation gala. I could refuse either. Will there be guns? I asked. Sabine replied, there are always guns. Alessia said, not where you can see them. That was not comforting. I am discovering I am poor at comfort. Nora gathered her files. Try honesty. Alessia watched her hug me goodbye, watched Nora kiss my temple, and looked away so carefully that jealousy became impossible to miss. It sent an unexpected warmth through me. Not because I wanted to make her jealous, because for 1 second, the woman who controlled an empire looked uncertain about whether she was allowed to want anything from me. That evening, Alessia took me to dinner at her grandmother's house. She asked me 3 separate times if I still wanted to go. On the 3rd, I said, if you ask again, I will assume you are trying to escape. I have negotiated port strikes with less anxiety. Were the dock workers wearing your engagement ring? Her gaze dropped to my hand. No. Then drive. The Serrano family home stood behind iron gates and old olive trees. 20 relatives tried not to stare, while Alessia introduced me by name and held my hand beneath the table, only after leaving her palm open for me to choose. Then Camilla Varga, arrived in silver, touched Alessia with the confidence of old history and revealed that their families had once planned an engagement. I hated how quickly jealousy found me. Alessia removed Camilla's hand and said clearly that no arrangement remained between them. Later, Camilla showed me an old photograph of the ring box between them and insisted duty would eventually have placed it on her hand. Did Alessia ever actually give it to you? I asked. Camilla's silence was the answer. I carried that truth into the library, where Alessia waited alone. Was the ring meant for Camilla? I asked. Alessia did not lie. My mother and Celeste planned an engagement. They placed that box in front of us during negotiations. But you refused. Yes. Why? Because Camilla wanted the alliance, and I wanted an answer to a different question. Which question? Alessia approached but stopped an arm's length away. Whether anyone would ever see me before they saw my name. I could hear the party through the closed doors, a distant clink of glass and polite laughter. And did Camilla? No. She saw a throne she could share. What do you see when you look at me? A woman I endangered. A woman who argues while a gun is against her back. A woman who laughs at me when everyone else calculates the cost. Her voice lowered. A woman whose hand I have wanted to hold since the elevator, and whose permission I am afraid to misunderstand. The honesty stripped every clever answer from me. You were jealous of Nora. Painfully. You did not try to stop me leaving with her. Jealousy is information, Eden. It is not authority. Something inside me shifted. I stepped closer. And Camilla? A history I survived, not a future I want. Our engagement is not real. I know. Then why does this feel like a confession? Because the part of me that wants you has become very tired of pretending it is only strategy. My pulse beat against the ring. Alessia lifted one hand but stopped before touching my face. May I? I nodded. Her fingertips traced the curve of my cheek with such restraint that the gentleness hurt. She leaned in, then waited again, her breath warm against my mouth. If I kiss you, she said, it will not be for the people outside. Good. I curled my fingers into the front of her shirt. Because they are not invited. The first touch of her lips was soft, almost questioning. I answered by pulling her closer. Control slipped from her in stages, a sharper breath, a hand settling at my waist, the careful kiss deepening until the room, the ring, and every warning I had ever learned blurred at the edges. She tasted faintly of black tea. When we parted, her forehead rested against mine. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Then the lights went out. Glass shattered in the corridor. Alessia moved before I understood the sound, pushing me behind a stone column as the library doors burst open. Sabine shouted from the hall. A red emergency light flooded the room, and somewhere beyond the windows, the entire Serrano estate began to burn with alarms. The first attacker came through the broken doors, wearing the uniform of Alessia's own security team. That frightened me more than a stranger would have. Alessia caught her wrist, drove the weapon toward the floor, and struck once with ruthless precision. The guns skidded beneath a reading table. A second woman appeared on the balcony outside. I saw only the shape of her arm before Alessia pulled me down. The window exploded above us. Sabine fired from the corridor, not at the woman, but at the metal latch of a fire door. It dropped between the library and the hall with a deafening crash. "West Passage!" she shouted. Alessia took my hand. We ran through a narrow door hidden behind the bookshelves and down a stone staircase that smelled of dust and cold earth. "Your family has secret passages?" I gasped. "My family has trust issues. For once, I approve." We reached a garage beneath the olive grove. Camilla stood beside an armored car, barefoot and furious, her silver heels in one hand. "Celeste's people blocked the north road," she said. "If you take the coast, they will see you." Alessia looked at her. "Why are you helping?" Camilla's pride fought with her fear. "Because whatever our families planned, I did not agree to murder." She threw Sabine the keys to a battered estate truck. "The vineyard track has no cameras." Sabine caught them. A burst of gunfire echoed above us. Camilla flinched, and I understood that jealousy did not make her the enemy. It made her human inside a system that had taught all of them to turn longing into leverage. "Come with us," I said. She shook her head. "My mother is upstairs. If I leave now, Celeste will know I warned you." Alessia hesitated. Camilla's laugh was bitter. "Do not mistake this for romance, Lessie. I am saving myself from becoming the woman they think I am." "Then survive," Alessia said. They looked at each other for one complicated moment, then Camilla turned back toward the house. We escaped through rows of dark vines, while flames from a burning security vehicle painted the low clouds orange. No one spoke until the estate disappeared behind the hill. I sat between Alessia and Sabine in the truck's narrow front seat. Blood darkened Alessia's cuff. "You are hurt." "Glass. Let me see." "It is nothing." I stared at her. She surrendered her arm. A shard had cut the outside of her forearm, not deep but long enough to require attention. Sabine drove with one hand and passed me a first aid kit with the other. She becomes difficult when injured. I am always difficult, Alessia said. That is true, Sabine replied. I cleaned the cut as the truck bounced over the vineyard road. Alessia's jaw tightened, but she did not pull away. My fingers were still unsteady from the attack. She noticed. Eden, look at me. I am trying not to pour antiseptic into your lap. That would be inconvenient, but survivable. Look at me. I did. You are safe in this vehicle, she said. Sabine has never lost anyone she was driving. There was Marseille, Sabine muttered. No one died in Marseille. The car did. Despite everything, I laughed. Alessia's eyes softened. She covered my trembling hand with hers and waited until I could breathe normally again. We reached the coast before dawn and hid in a cliffside villa with one secure bedroom and a sofa too short for either of us. Alessia offered to sleep on the floor. I chose to share the bed instead. She kept a careful distance until I reached across the linen and took her hand. In the dark, she told me her mother had added the ring's inscription after a lifetime of watching alliances disguised as love. She said that if I ever placed it on a woman's hand, I had to be willing to let her remove it. Alessia whispered. She also admitted that losing her mother had taught her to treat affection like a target painted on someone's back. So you stopped caring? I asked. I stopped admitting it. I moved closer and rested against her shoulder. We did not need another kiss to make the night intimate. Her arm settled around me only after I invited it, and I fell asleep listening to the heart the city believed was stone. When I woke, Alessia was gone. Panic arrived before reason. I sat up, found her side of the bed cold, and saw the ring catching gray morning light on my hand. Then music drifted from the kitchen. She stood barefoot at the counter, ruining pancakes while an old radio played a love song too cheerful for either of us. You left, I said. She turned at once. I am sorry. I thought you needed sleep. You could have told me. You were asleep. People can leave notes. The sharpness in my voice surprised us both. Alessia set down the spatula. You are right. No defense. No accusation that I was unreasonable. I will leave a note next time. There will be a next time? Her gaze moved over my borrowed shirt, my bare legs, and the ring. Heat entered her eyes before discipline pulled it back. I hope so. I came to the counter. One pancake had burned black around the edges, while remaining liquid in the center. Your empire is safe from a culinary takeover. I excel in specialized areas. Name 3. Shipping, strategic intimidation, T. The T remains under review. She smiled, and the sight felt like being trusted with contraband. Then Sabine returned with Nora, and an argument already in progress. Nora stopped when she saw me wearing Alessia's shirt. Her eyebrows rose. Alessia became intensely interested in the ruined pancake. Nothing happened, I said. I did not ask, Nora replied. Your face did. My face is a licensed attorney. It asks what it wants. Sabine placed a folder on the table. We have a traitor inside Alessia's security office. Still very much grieving the loss, and set herself to the task of finding a dry place to stand. But I did not request them. Nora added, and the courier form for Eden's ring was signed through a holding company belonging to Celeste. That proves she arranged the delivery, Alessia said, not that she ordered the attack. The wax might, I said. Everyone looked at me. I explained the residue inside the damaged band and the partial crest. My archival tape was still locked in the evidence drawer beneath my workbench. Sabine started making a retrieval plan. I interrupted. I am coming. Alessia's answer was immediate. No, I folded my arms. You gave me choices yesterday. Yesterday, your shop had not been watched by armed people. It was searched yesterday. And last night taught me how close I came to losing you. Fear does not turn your decision into mine. Alessia went still. I saw the exact moment she heard herself, and hated it. You are right, she said. I am sorry. Sabine and Nora both pretended to examine the folder. Alessia came around the counter, but stopped before me. May I tell you why I am asking you not to go? Yes. Celeste expected you to notice the wax. She may be waiting for you to retrieve it. I do not want you used as bait again. Neither do I. That is why we plan for the trap, instead of walking into it blindly. And if the plan fails? Then I want to be near the only person who knows which drawer has a false bottom and which jar contains acid. Nora lifted one finger. The acid is a compelling point. Alessia looked as if she wanted to forbid the entire world. Instead, she asked, what would make the risk acceptable to you? We agreed on a daylight entry with police surveillance. Sabine beside me, Alessia outside, and the word piano to end the operation. My workshop looked untouched, but the hidden compartment beneath my bench had been opened. The wax fragment was gone. In its place lay a silver cufflink engraved with Celestio's winged thorn crest. Someone lunged from the stair curtain, but Sabine caught her, while Alessia stopped a second attacker at the front door. Once the police secured the room, I examined the cufflink. A unique fracture through its enamel matched the partial crest I had documented from the wax inside the ring. Celeste had replaced the evidence because she believed an artisan's notes could not threaten her. Nora connected the attacker's phones to Celestia's office. We finally had a physical link, a financial link, and living witnesses enough to accuse, but not enough to survive accusing without every council family watching. The foundation gala would bring every council family into one glass-roofed hall. Celeste could not refuse to attend without looking guilty. Our plan was to display the restored ring, demonstrate the crest match, and force the families to withdraw protection from her before the police moved. It sounded simple only when summarized quickly. Alessia wanted to cancel. If we hide now, Celeste controls the story, I said. She will say you invented an engagement to cover theft of the ring. She will call me your accomplice and come for me anyway. I know. Then stop looking at me as if I am walking toward an execution. I am looking at you as if you are walking into a room full of people who have spent their lives turning affection into a weapon. Then perhaps they should see something else. What? I touched the ring. A choice. That night, we returned to the harbor residence. Nora stayed to prepare the legal evidence. Sabine took over the dining table with security maps. I stood at the kitchen window while Alessia made tea correctly this time. Nora came beside me and bumped her shoulder against mine. You look happy, she said quietly. I was shot at twice. That was not the part I meant. I watched Alessia measure honey into my cup without asking, because she had remembered how I took it. I might be. Does she make room for you? She is learning. Nora followed my gaze. And you? I am learning that making room is not the same as leaving. She took that in. Years earlier, when we had nearly become something more than friends, I had stepped away because I could not bear the possibility of losing her. Nora had let me. Neither of us had been wrong, but the tenderness between us had remained unfinished. I loved you, she said, not as a weapon, not even as a request. Part of me probably always will. My chest tightened. Nora, I am not asking you to choose me. I am telling you because I spent years pretending friendship made the other truth disappear. It did not. It simply changed shape. I took her hand. I loved you too. Across the kitchen, a spoon struck the counter. Alessia had heard. Her face revealed nothing, which by then meant she was feeling too much. Nora glanced at her and then back at me. But I do not think you are looking at me when you imagine your future anymore. No, I whispered. I am not. The grief in Nora's smile was real, and so was the relief. We hugged for a long time. When we separated, Sabine appeared with 2 cups of coffee and looked from Nora's wet eyes to mine. Do I need to remove someone from the building? Nora laughed through her tears. Not unless you are volunteering to take me somewhere with worse coffee. I know a place. Sabine's tone stayed flat, but a faint color rose along her neck. Nora noticed. So did I. Alessia pretended not to. Later, I found her alone on the balcony. the harbor lights silver in her eyes. You heard us. I heard enough. Ask me. It is not my right. I did not say claim me. I said ask me. She looked down at the city. Do you still love her? Yes, in the way you can love someone who taught you what safety felt like before you were ready to stay. I am not in love with her. Alessia's breath left slowly. Are you in love with me? The question was so bare that neither of us could hide from it. I am moving in that direction with alarming speed. That is not an answer. It is the honest one. Then it is enough. I stepped between her and the railing. Tell me what jealousy feels like when you are not turning it into authority. A humorless smile touched her mouth. It feels like wanting to erase every year she had with you, before I knew your name. It feels like hating that she can make you laugh when you are frightened. It feels like being ashamed, because she has protected you longer than I have, and part of me still wishes you would look at no one except me. Anything else? It feels like knowing none of that gives me the right to make your world smaller. I touched the scar beneath her lip. Good answer. Do I receive a prize? You receive another question. Cruel. Do you want to kiss me? Her control broke into a real smile. Painfully. Then ask. May I kiss you, Eden? Yes. The second kiss was nothing like the first. There was no family outside, no attack waiting behind the walls, no uncertainty about whether desire had been invented by danger. Alessia cupped my face and kissed me slowly, thoroughly, as if learning something she intended to remember. I slid my arms around her neck. She drew me against her, and the quiet sound she made when I kissed the scar below her lip sent heat through every careful boundary between us. We stayed on the balcony until the harbor blurred. When she finally pulled back, she rested her mouth against my temple. Come to bed, I whispered. She searched my face. To sleep? Tonight, yes. And if I want more? Then you can want it beside me. Her eyes darkened, but she nodded. We lay together in her room, fully clothed, my head on her chest. Her fingers traced circles along my back. Desire lived there, acknowledged and unhurried. That restraint did not make the moment dry. It made every breath feel chosen. Before sleep found us, Alessia whispered, If tomorrow ends badly, I need you to know the ring was never the reason I wanted you here. I lifted my head. Tomorrow is not allowed to end badly. You still owe me a real dinner. We had dinner with my family. That was an interrogation with pasta. Then I owe you dinner. And a third kiss. Only 3? We will negotiate after dessert. She kissed my forehead. Extortion. You are rubbing off on me. For a little while, the Queen of the South Harbor laughed beneath me, and the city did not end. The following evening, the glass house above the Belladonna Hotel glowed like a lantern over the harbor. Every council family had arrived beneath a ceiling of iron ribs and winter roses. Reporters waited beyond the gates because Alessia had invited them. That had been my idea. Secrets are Celeste's favorite room, I had said. Let us remove the walls. Nora arranged for 2 honest detectives and a prosecutor to attend as foundation guests. Sabine placed her own people at every exit and assigned 1 guard whose only responsibility was me. Alessia objected, until I reminded her that I was not a parcel. The guard became my escort instead, required to follow instructions rather than give them. Camilla arrived alone. She wore deep blue instead of family silver, a small but public rejection of her mother's side. She found me before the presentation and handed me a folded piece of paper. Celeste moved money from 3 harbor accounts this afternoon, she said. She is preparing to leave. Why give this to me? Because Alessia will assume it is a trap if I approach her directly. Is it? Everything in our families is a trap. Occasionally it is also true. I studied her. Last night you helped us escape. Last night I realized Celeste would burn an entire house with me inside if it bought her 1 more vote. You could leave the city and spend the rest of my life letting women like her define what survival looks like? Her gaze moved to the ring. No, she started away, then stopped. For what it is worth, I was cruel to you on the terrace. You were hurt. Pain explains cruelty. It does not excuse it. The apology was clean. I accepted it. Camilla joined the Varga table, not beside Celeste but across from her. That distance would matter. In the preparation room, Alessia waited in a black evening suit with a satin collar. I had chosen a dark green dress, simple enough to let the ring remain the only jewel on my body. When she saw me, every planned sentence left her. "You are staring," I said. "I am reconsidering whether inviting witnesses was wise." Jealous? Of the entire room. Information, not authority. I remember. She offered her arm. I did not take it. Instead, I caught her lapel and kissed her once. Quick and deliberate. Surprise transformed her face. "That was the third," I said. "The negotiation has concluded." "And the result?" "Pending dinner." She touched her forehead to mine. "If you say piano tonight, Sabine removes you. I will not follow unless you ask." "And if you are the one in danger?" "Eden." That was not rhetorical. She closed her eyes briefly. "If I am in danger, you leave with Sabine." "No. If you are in danger, I decide based on what is happening. You do not sacrifice yourself and call it respecting me. You negotiate like Nora. I charge less. That is objectively false. This evening has cost me $3 million. Your accounting remains unromantic. Stay alive, and I will improve." The gala began beneath a glass ceiling, with reporters outside and every council family watching. I told one journalist the truth. Alessia had first placed the ring on my hand to protect my life, and everything after that was a private choice. By admitting the rescue was not a romantic proposal, I removed Celestia's easiest chance to expose us as liars. Alessia then asked me to dance. Her hand settled at my waist after I nodded, and we moved through the room without pretending. She asked what our real dinner would look like. I demanded no guards at the table, Sabine nearby pretending not to know us, and dessert Alessia had not cooked. She negotiated the distance of the guards and accepted the dessert condition. For one song, danger became background noise, and the woman holding me became more real than the queen everyone else feared. Then the orchestra ended. Before applause faded, Celeste raised a glass. "A toast to my niece, and the brave woman wearing a ring she does not understand." Conversations died. Alessia's body went still beside mine. Celeste continued. "Tradition matters because it protects us from impulse. The succession ring cannot be given during coercion, nor may it leave the blood families without council recognition. What happened 3 nights ago was panic dressed as an engagement." "What happened 3 nights ago," Alessia said, "was your guard holding a gun against Eden. An accusation without evidence." "We have evidence," I said. Celeste's eyes came to me. "A jeweler's opinion?" "A jeweler's record." Sabine rolled a display case to the center of the room. Inside lay the silver cufflink, my microscope drawings, a cast of the damaged crest, and enlarged images of the repair. Nora distributed signed forensic reports, confirming the wax composition and the match between the chipped winged thorn and Celeste's private seal. I explained the evidence without drama. The ring had been struck, pressed into warm sealing wax, and routed through Celeste's company before it reached me. The cufflink planted in my shop carried the same unique fracture. Celeste had not merely known about the damaged ring. She had handled it. Murmurs spread through the families. Celeste set down her glass. "At most, you have proven an object from my office, touched an object from Alessia's vault." Camilla rose from her table. "Then perhaps the account transfers will provide context." She handed Nora copies of the harbor records. Celeste's mask finally slipped. "Sit down." Camilla remained standing. "No. One word, but it changed something larger than the room." 2 council representatives moved away from Celeste, then another. Alessia addressed them, not her aunt. Celeste used the succession ring to lure an unconnected civilian into a private conflict. She violated sanctuary, ordered an attack beneath my grandmother's roof, and compromised security shared by every family here. Withdraw your protection, and she answers to civil law tonight. The eldest representative asked. "And the ring?" Was it freely accepted? Every gaze turned to me. I could have said yes and ended the question. Instead, I removed it. Alessia's breath caught. The black sapphire lay on my palm, heavy and suddenly cold. Guards shifted around the room. Without it, I was no longer protected by the old accord. Celeste smiled. There is your answer. I met Alessia's eyes. She looked hurt, but she did not reach for me. She did not order the ring returned. She held herself still and let me choose. The first time, I said, loud enough for the room, I accepted this ring because I wanted to live. That was not a proposal, and we will not turn fear into romance simply because the story sounds beautiful. But Alessia gave me the right to remove it. She gave me the truth when lying would have been easier. She let me disagree, leave, return, and stand beside her without once pretending gratitude belonged to her. I turned to Celeste. You understand possession, you do not understand choice. Then I faced Alessia and held out my hand. Would you place it back? Her composure broke. Not dramatically, just enough for me to see the woman beneath the queen. She crossed the floor and took the ring from my palm. Are you certain? She whispered. I am certain about tonight. And tomorrow? Ask me tomorrow. Alessia slid the ring onto my finger. This time, there was no gun against my body. The council saw the difference. One by one, the representatives withdrew their protection from Celeste. Nora signaled the prosecutor. The detectives moved forward. For one breath, I believed we had won without another weapon being drawn. Then the glass ceiling went dark. Emergency shutters slammed over the exits. Someone had cut the power from inside the building. The music system screamed with feedback. In the red security lights, Celeste seized Camilla and pressed a small pistol beneath her jaw. Everyone is sentimental tonight, she said. Let us see what it costs. Her remaining guards appeared among the guests. Sabine drew, but could not fire with Camilla in the line of sight. Alessia moved in front of me. I grabbed the back of her jacket. Do not, Eden, stay behind me. That is not a plan. Celeste backed toward a service door with Camilla. The jeweler comes with me. She is the only person here stupid enough to believe that ring makes her powerful. No, Alessia said. Then Camilla dies first. Camilla's face had gone pale, but her eyes found mine. She gave the smallest shake of her head. Do not trade. I thought of the preparation room, the hidden microphone Sabine had fastened beneath the edge of my dress, the word that could trigger evacuation. We had planned for Celeste to confront me. We had not planned for Camilla. Plans were only useful until people became real. I will go, I said. Alessia turned on me. No. I touched the ring. Trust me enough to hate this. Her eyes filled with rage, fear, and understanding. She stepped aside. Celeste pulled me through the service door, while keeping Camilla ahead of her. 2 guards followed. The corridor led upward into the old rooftop conservatory, a narrow garden surrounded by glass. Rain struck the roof. Below us, the harbor lights blurred in the storm. Celeste pushed Camilla to her knees and ordered one guard to bind my wrists. Remove the ring, she said. Why? The council watched Alessia return it. Because when the police find you without it, they will hear that you reconsidered. Alessia forced the second performance. Public opinion is remarkably obedient when given a frightened woman and the correct headline. There it was, the plan in her own words, carried through Sabine's microphone to every receiver downstairs. I needed more. And the attacks? I asked. You expect them to believe I imagined those too? I expect no one to hear you after tonight. Camilla closed her eyes. Celeste continued, enjoying herself now that she believed the witnesses were trapped below. The courier, the hotel, the estate, your workshop. Each step was designed to prove Alessia would sacrifice judgment for a woman she could not protect. She did better than I hoped. She placed the succession itself on your hand. Why damage the ring? To ensure a restorer saw my seal and spoke at the hotel. You were meant to accuse me. Alessia was meant to react. The only surprise was how quickly she wanted you. The confession filled the storm-dark conservatory. I hoped Sabine was hearing every word. Celeste extended her hand. The ring. You will have to come closer. Do not be childish. The band is fitted over my knuckle. Your guard tied my hands too tightly for me to remove it. Celeste crouched in front of me, irritation overwhelming caution. She gripped my fingers and pulled. The ring stopped at the swollen joint. Soap, she ordered. One guard moved toward a gardener's sink. The other watched Camilla. I rotated my wrists. Before the gala, I had asked Sabine for one tool, a flexible jeweler's saw blade no longer than my palm. It lay stitched into the lining of my clutch. The clutch was gone, taken downstairs. But Nora, who considered one plan an invitation to invent 3 backups, had pinned a second blade inside the hem of my dress. My fingers found the tiny metal tab. I drew it free and began working it against the plastic restraint. You always believed Alessia was weak for refusing your arrangement, Camilla said, pulling Celeste's attention. She was. No. You were afraid she would prove people could lead without becoming you. Celeste struck her. I nearly lunged, but Camilla looked at me again. Wait. The blade cut deeper. Your mother will disown you, Celeste said. Then she can explain why she remained silent while you turned her daughter into a hostage. The restraint snapped. I kept my hands together. The guard returned with soap. As she approached, I grabbed her wrist, twisted the bottle into her eyes, and drove my shoulder into her chest. Camilla swept the legs from beneath the second guard. We ran for the stair door. Celeste fired. The bullet shattered a pane beside my head. Wind and rain exploded through the opening. Camilla reached the door first, but it was locked from the other side. Piano! I shouted. Nothing happened. Celeste raised the gun again. Then the entire glass roof burst into white light. Sabine had restored emergency power. Sprinklers opened above us, turning the floor slick. Alessia appeared on the other side of the locked door and fired once into the hinge. The door sagged. Celeste grabbed me by the hair and dragged me backward, the pistol pressed to my neck. Alessia stopped. I had seen her angry. I had seen her afraid. I had never seen both emotions stripped of every disguise. Let her go, she said. Celeste smiled against my ear. The queen arrives for her weakness. You keep using that word, I said. I do not think you understand it. I drove my heel down on Celeste's foot and threw my weight sideways. The gun discharged into the ceiling. Alessia hit the broken door at the same moment. Sabine came through behind her and took Celeste to the ground. The pistol skidded across wet tile. Camilla kicked it through the broken glass into the rain. Alessia reached me but stopped one step away, hands shaking. May I? I crossed the distance and wrapped myself around her. She held me so tightly I felt the fear leave her in broken breaths. I heard the shot, she said against my hair. I thought, I know. I told you to leave if I was in danger. And I ignored you beautifully. A laugh tore out of her, half relief and half despair. She kissed my forehead, my temple, the corner of my mouth, then stopped. Even then she waited. I kissed her properly. Behind us, Nora arrived and went straight to Sabine, who had blood on her collar from a cut near her shoulder. You are hurt, Nora said. It is superficial. That is what emotionally unavailable women say before they faint. I do not faint, Sabine swayed. Nora caught her. Camilla, soaked and bruised, began laughing. It spread through all of us, until the rooftop conservatory held the strangest sound it had probably ever heard. 5 women alive, in spite of every plan made for them. Celeste was arrested before dawn. The confession transmitted through my microphone reached the prosecutor, the counsel, and 3 separate recordings Nora had insisted on making. The compromised officers were suspended. The guards who attacked the estate negotiated agreements. Camilla testified publicly, then resigned from every Varga board her mother controlled. Alessia's counsel withdrew Celeste's authority and voted to end the old engagement protections entirely. No woman should need to belong to one of us to deserve safety. Alessia said at the hearing. It was the first rule she rewrote. The change mattered more to me than any declaration of love could have that morning. Danger did not disappear in one clean sweep. Real consequences never worked that way. Alessia spent weeks replacing security, opening financial records to investigators, and separating her legitimate shipping company from the operations Celeste had hidden inside it. Several relatives left. 2 threatened her. 1 apologized. She did not become innocent because she loved me, and I did not ask her to pretend the empire had never harmed anyone. I asked what she planned to do with the power she still held. She answered with actions, closing the debt operations Celeste had used to trap families, funding protection for witnesses without requiring loyalty, and turning the Belladonna's private upper floors into offices for the legal foundation Nora directed. It was not redemption completed, it was accountability begun. The morning after the gala, Alessia brought me home to my workshop. The police tape had been removed. My drawers remained crooked. A crack split one display case. She stood in the doorway, as though she had no right to cross it. "Come inside," I said. "Are you sure? If you ask me that every time, we will grow old on the pavement. That is still a future with you." The answer stole my breath. She entered. On my workbench sat the velvet ring box. I had not placed it there. Sabine had recovered it from the hotel. Alessia looked at my hand. "Celeste is in custody. The council has withdrawn every threat against you. You no longer need the ring." "I know. I promised I would offer to remove it when you were safe." I held out my hand. Pain crossed her face, quickly controlled. She took a small jar of jeweler's balm, warmed it between her fingers, and gently worked the band over my knuckle. The black sapphire left a pale circle on my skin. Alessia placed it in the box. She did not ask me to stay. She did not make grief into pressure. "You are free, Eden." The words hurt more than I expected. "And what are you?" "Trying to become someone you could choose without danger deciding for you." "How long will that take?" "Longer than I want." "Then you should start with dinner." Hope appeared cautiously. "A real one?" "No guards at the table. Half a block away. Sabine inside. Pretending not to know us. And dessert you did not cook." "I accept these conditions." "Friday at 8. I will be here." She left the ring in the box. That mattered. For the next 3 weeks, Alessia courted me without using a single council rule. She arrived early for dates and waited outside when I was busy. She never paid a bill or repaired part of my shop without asking. I taught her to solder a simple silver loop. She ruined 4 and kept the 5th like treasure. She took me to a piano recital and endured being shushed for whispering complaints about the composer. Small respect became more romantic than rescue because it survived ordinary disagreement. Jealousy remained, but we treated it as information rather than permission. When Nora visited, Alessia admitted what she felt instead of punishing me for it. When an investor touched Alessia's shoulder throughout dinner, I admitted my own jealousy, and she reassured me without mocking it. Then we escaped together for noodles. At the end of the 3rd week, I returned to the workshop after closing and found Alessia at the piano in the back room. It had belonged to my mother and had not held a tune in years. Alessia had paid for nothing. Instead, she and Sabine had carried it away, repaired it with the help of the same local carpenter I had chosen, and returned it after asking Nora whether I would consider that an invasion. "It was still an invasion," I said, running my fingers across the restored keys. "A musical one." Nora approved? After drafting a 6-page consent agreement. That sounds like her. Alessia played the 8 bars she had once failed. This time, she reached the 9th without hesitation. On the final chord, she opened the velvet box beside her. The black sapphire caught the lamplight. She did not take it out. "The danger is over," she said. "The performance is over. The council no longer recognizes the ring as a claim, and I do not want them to." Good. But my mother's words remain. Only what is freely given may be kept. I sat beside her. "What are you asking?" "Not for marriage tonight. not for an answer you cannot change. I am asking whether you will keep the ring while we discover what our future is when neither fear nor strategy is writing it for us." Her voice shook, just slightly. "I can have the stone reset into another band if its history feels too heavy. You can keep it in a drawer. You can say no, and I will still arrive Friday at 8 unless you ask me not to. You practice this. For 9 days. It needs work." Her face fell. I smiled and held out my left hand. "You forgot to ask the simplest part." Alessia stared at me. Then she lifted the ring. "Eden Marlowe, will you keep it?" "Yes." She slid it onto my finger for the third time. The first time, a gun had made the choice urgent. The second, an entire room had watched. This time, there was only the woman I loved, my mother's imperfect piano, and enough silence for my answer to belong completely to me. I touched Alessia's face, and before you ask, yes, you may kiss me. I was going to ask whether you wanted dinner. Liar. Strategic omission. I kissed her before she could turn romance into negotiation. Months later, Camilla sent us a photograph from Lisbon. She was standing outside a small design studio with paint on her cheek and no family crest anywhere on her clothes. Nora and Sabine became official after 6 weeks of behaving officially enough to fool no one. Their first public argument concerned whether Sabine's motorcycle was a reasonable form of transportation. Their first public kiss ended the argument without resolving it. Alessia continued changing the empire she had inherited, sometimes well, and sometimes too slowly. I continued calling her out. She continued listening, apologizing when necessary, and trying again. A year after the night at the Belladonna, she brought me back to the library where we had first kissed. The windows had been replaced. No guards stood inside. She had repaired the damaged stone column, but left one small mark visible beneath the polish. "Scars are part of restoration," she said, repeating something I had told her on our second date. She knelt, holding a different ring. Simple platinum, no crest, no council history, designed by the two of us at my workbench. "This one protects nothing," she said. "It grants no title, settles no alliance, and gives me no power over you. It is only a question. Eden, will you marry me?" I looked at the black sapphire still resting on my right hand, the ring that had begun as protection and become a promise because she had learned to ask. Then I looked at Alessia. "Yes." She laughed before she cried. I pulled her to her feet and kissed her, while the evening light turned the library gold. We married 4 months later in my workshop courtyard, with Nora, Sabine, Camilla, and exactly one armed guard, who stayed half a block away because I had won the negotiation. Alessia's grandmother played the piano badly and with confidence. At dinner, Alessia burned the dessert she had insisted on making. No one died. No alliance collapsed. The city continued calling her the Queen of the South Harbor, but when she came home, she left the title beside the door. To me, she was the woman who placed a ring on my finger to save my life, removed it when safety returned, and asked before giving it back. The ring never made me hers. The choice made us each other's.